And now, without wasting any time, bishop to g5 by Albert. He goes for the ever-back system which he prepared against Kasparov, and this is usually played to avoid heavy mainline theory in the King's Indian and to shut down the black typical kingside attack before it even starts. And now here Kasparov can consider the move c5. He can target the center, which is called Benoni system, but he goes for knight at b goes to d7, which is known as Gellert defense. And now Kasparov goes for this very provocative Benko style pawn sacrifice by pushing b5. He basically challenging the white center right away. And we usually don't see this kind of continuation, but it was a really brave decision so early in the game, especially against someone who is well prepared, so that he can get deviated from his prep. After takes, and now Kasparov goes for a6. He literally creating an imbalance in the white position. And let's suppose if white captured on a6 by b takes a6, instead of recapturing with the bishop, here black can continue with queen to a5, winning the knight. And let's suppose if white is not careful and he decides to develop his pieces by, let's suppose, this knight on f3. Now comes knight takes c4, taking benefit of this pinned knight. And if bishop goes back, simply knight takes bishop, queen takes d2, bishop takes a6. So that's why after let's suppose white castle, knight to b6, preparing for knight to a4, which puts pressure on the knight, on this knight and this pawn. And let's suppose if bishop takes a6, simply rook takes a6, and you can see what's coming next. So that's why after the move a6, here Albert goes for a4. And since black is now threatening to capture on e4, so to stop this, and guys, that's a mistake. Instead, the move rook to a3 was recommended because now Kasparov firstly captures the knight, and after bishop takes b5, and now he gets an opportunity to sacrifice the queen by queen takes b5, taking advantage of this pinned pawn. And now you can see that why rook to a3 was recommended, because it defends the white rook, which is now not possible after. And obviously, you can see white can't capture the knight due to this undefended bishop. So that's why here Albert decides to just castle. And finally, Kasparov defends the knight. And to get rid of this pawn structure, Albert captured on c5. But guys, this is a slight inaccuracy by white. Yes, he wants to improve the pawn structure, but it also opens the way for the knight on d7. But before that, Kasparov decides to exchange the rooks. And now just take a look at the material. Black has a rook, a bishop and these powerful knights, whereas white has a queen, a bishop and a knight. Materially it's about equal, but just look at the activity of black pieces. They are perfectly coordinated while the white queen is just wandering around with no real targets. This is a masterclass in piece coordination by Kasparov. And here Albert now gives up his b pawn by pushing it further. And the idea behind this is after knight takes b6, he can go for queen to b5, trying to infiltrate into black position. So to stop this, and now white is threatening to capture on c5. So to stop this, and now you can see he centralizes the knight while also opening the f3 square for the king, because now Kasparov gives some checks by Okay, so now Kasparov just goes for e5. He targets the knight, but this is a slight inaccuracy. By pushing the pawn to e5, here black also weakens the d5 square, in which white can now control more easily in the future. Instead, it was better for black to bring this knight from d7 to f6 and then to e4, bringing this into the attack. And you can see if Kasparov gives another check here, the game would end. The game would likely end in a draw, which he obviously doesn't want. So that's why he goes for rook to a6. And now knight to b4 might be the best option for white, but instead he captures on c5. He goes for the exchange, and you can see it's a desperate trade by Albert. He hopes that by trading one of those powerful knights, he'll reduce the pressure, but in reality, this is a mistake because after knight takes e5, and now just look at this amazing structure. By exchanging the knights, by exchanging the knight for the bishop, black actually benefits because it clears the path for the passers on the d and this e file, which are very hard for white to handle. And now he basically push g3, giving some air to the king. And now you can see this amazing outpost for this knight. Okay, so here queen to b8, preparing for the check, but Kasparov simply goes for rook to d1, supporting the d pawn, and white understands this very well. So that's why he brings his queen back to b2, acting as a gatekeeper, eyeing on these powerful files so that he can, stop this pawn. Okay, so now Albert goes for knight to d5, trying to create a blockade, but Kasparov just silently goes for bishop to d8, and obviously white can't capture due to this undefended knight. So that's why king to f3, and now black can either push e4 or maybe rook to d3, but he simply goes for knight to e6. He's not rushing, he's basically playing safe. Okay, so now rook to d2, threatening knight to d4 check, and to tackle this, king to g2 might be the best option. And yes, white can capture on d6, but this also pins the white knight on d5 after some exchange happens. And also you can see black is also threatening this move after white captures. But here Albert blunders by king to e3, and that's a blunder because he walks his king right into the devastating combination. Kasparov immediately takes advantage of it, starting with the rook sacrifice, rook to e2 check, which obviously white can't take due to the same threat, so that's why king to d3. And now comes this another beautiful move, e4 check. And again white can't capture, so that's why he goes for king to c4. But what about rook to c2 check? Another stunning deflection. And you can see after knight to c3, which is forced, and now bishop to f6. And now you can see black is threatening to capture the knight. Now take a look at this position once. It really feels like black has kidnapped white king and is using him as a leverage to improve all of his pieces. And in this position, the final move by Kasparov is bishop to e5 check. And here Lev Alburt resigned because since white king is in a check, so he has two options. And if he either goes anywhere, in both the cases you can see this check is coming, and you can see the only move is king to e8. And after that, black can consider this beautiful move bishop to f6, threatening mate in one, which obviously white can't stop. And to stop this, the only move is to give up the queen, but after that you can see this is all over for white. What an amazing game by young Garry Kasparov. Imagine this game was played in 1982, and at that time he was just 19 years old. Just legend stuff. Like this video and I will see you in the next one. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.